Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about. So I'm having like moments of clarity right now, and it doesn't last long usually. So I want to record it as soon as possible so that I don't forget it. I am remembering the fact that the way we're supposed to live life is just live it, meaning. uh, I remember like listening or reading a lot of uh, spiritual and self-help book like back in the days 20 years ago about how life is not meant to be a struggle, and I used to really resent that because it's I was struggling, and when it says that it feels like it's denying my reality, right? But I think there is some truth to the text. There's some truth to what these people have been saying for the longest time. And I don't know if this is my theory or if this is just something that I gathered after reading hundreds and hundreds of spiritual and self-help books. And maybe this is what they mean is when you live life, you basically living life as part of a hybrid, meaning the soul is experiencing life through the body, through this particular animal we call human in this body. So the animals is the body, and there is a mind body spirit connections, right? Like we are three separate entities but one, and that's always being mentioned in a lot of religious text. And my theory is my conclusion is that's probably a lot more accurate is that this particular person, this biology person, has a code, has a living code in how this body is going to live its life. It's like this body is like a movie. It's already been made. It's already been narrated. It's already been concluded from the beginning to the end. And the job of the soul is merely interacting with the movie from inside the movie. So it's looking through the experience of this particular person in this particular body. And there is certainly almost no power that the soul has that can change its course. I think you can force it. You can definitely suffer. And I think that is a definition of suffering. And that is when the soul is trying to navigate away from the course of the body's journey. And if you see, like, if you read a lot of Christian texts or any other religious texts, it's usually saying things like, if you go against God's will, you will suffer. And you have the choice to go against the God's will. That's the free will that has been bestowed upon you. But usually that will create a lot of suffering. So it is better to go with God's will and make it your will, and your life will be a lot smoother. I never got that in the past, but now I feel like, yeah, I kind of getting it. So that's what I'm trying to do with this video. I'm trying to talk to you about it. I'm trying to process it in a way so that it makes sense for me too. Because I think this conclusion is correct because I think there are a lot of examples of twins, for example, when they are basically living parallel lives. There are like twins that are separated mostly when they have a lot of identical decisions, and sometimes they have the same wives with the same name, married at the same age, living a lifestyle that are the same, having similar occupation, have similar view with religion. For example, I think I watched a documentary about twin sisters that were separated. One was really religious in Catholicism, and the other one was really religious in Judaism. But it wasn't even what the religion was. about. It was more about their connection with it that matters quite a bit. They even look the same, like their haircut and everything. And to me, these are just examples, and I know like there's a lot of twin studies out there, but from that perspective, when I'm trying to explain this theory, it makes sense to me. It's like, oh, okay, so a lot of our lives are being dictated with biology, and that kind of, you know, make us question, like, so we don't have free will? I think we do, but we just have a free will to go along with it or not. And it's like an RPG, it's already been coded, the possible. We think that we have a lot of free wills, we think we have a lot of choices, but the choices even have been pre-made for us. It's like, do you want to go this path or that path? It's like in RPG games, usually this path would lead this way, but the programmers already created a different scenario and a different programming for a different options that you have to take, and different decisions that you have to make. So it's not really free choices because the choices are limited. You get to have free will to make the choice, but the choices are pre-made. So do you really have free will? But it's not depressing it's not depressing. I don't think it is depressing because I don't think the conclusion that I've gotten right now, as I'm having a lucid moment right now, is because this can go away in the next hour or so. I will just go back to my usual human self and complain about my life. So here it is, just a lucid, brief moment in time where I can explain it the way I meant it. And the conclusion is the purpose of life is for you just to see the perspective of the person, the body that you're currently in. And I don't think it's hopeless by any means, but and there are always going to be lessons that you want to accomplish, like, so that's a sliding doors moment, that's like an RPG choice moment. It's like, do you say yes to this or do you say no to this? So those are the moments where you actually have the choice, like the power to choose. But even that, like, it's already programmed. If you say yes, this will happen, like it's already been made. All the consequences it has already in front of you. The world has already been built for that choice, and if you say no, the world is already being built for that choice. So those are the only moments where we have power to choose. The rest of it is just us cruising and just checking out what the programmers, or in this case God or universe or the source, have installed for us in this particular body's perspective. So it is a bit like this body is an avatar for us to navigate the game of life. And the purpose of and we have agreed maybe on a mass level of what events we want to experience by using this particular body's life story. Like, if you were 80 years old, so you have agreed to live through World War II, for example, right? No, no, wow, no, no, no. If you're 80, if you're 85 years old, you were born in 1940. No, it's like if you were 100 years old, probably that's probably correct. You have agreed to live through world events like World War II. And of course, the subsequent events, of course, the GSE in 2008. If you live in America, the Nixon Gate, the Watergate, Vietnam War, Afghanistan war. It depends where you live in the world, where you were born, and what your culture is, because the world is a lot bigger than we know it. And even up until recently, I have not considered Africa in my consciousness, even though it's the biggest continent in the world. But now it's penetrating into my consciousness, right? Because there's a lot more African entertainers in Korean industry, and I know like that's so weird having it come that way. But it's also I'm watching a lot of African uh, influencer from TikTok. They usually go to China and they introduce like how it feels being black in China, and it's weird how it comes from Asia, like the experience of being Africa, it comes from East Asian entertainment contents rather than from like being actually surrounded by them in the Western world, which probably a lot more make more sense. And I don't even consider African American as African, meaning like because they have a very different story altogether. There is a different branch of the tree that has split a long time ago, well, 200 years ago, that now has its own identity and its own problem that we don't really attach that to the continent of Africa per se. But anyway, I'm saying back to what I was saying, like the conclusion is we don't have to struggle. It's not meant to struggle. Life is not meant to be a struggle because in a lot of ways it has been pre-made. A lot of ways it has been programmed. So there are a lot of events that are just going to happen to you, and you will have a certain date for your death. For example, you have agreed, probably there are exits in your life that you can choose if you want to exit from life. That's from what I read from the books, like regression books. It usually the soul will set up moments in the body's life that you they can take as a exit path. Some people maybe have five exit paths, five choices that they can make if they want to exit in this moment, in that moment. But those big moments are already predetermined as well. So even that you don't have to worry about. And I know like it's so easy just to discuss this in theory because it's so hard to be alive, and it's so hard to convince yourself that this is actually the case. Because I think last year I was reading something, or maybe I was watching something. I forgot. Anyway, the topic came up again. It basically said all you have to do is release resistance and breathe. That's all you have to do in life. And it felt really like a slap on the face because I felt offended. I remembered it because I felt so offended with that particular sentence because life was just really hard. I was just having an extremely emotional hard time. And they just say that. And I'm like, no, no, that's bull. That's not right. But now I'm having a little bit of clarity, having a lucid moment. That's actually makes sense because if the purpose of life is just for the soul to see the perspective from the body that you're in, and the body already have a predetermined life story, then yeah, no matter what you do, you can't really change it much unless it was that choice events, like in RPG, like do you go here, do you go there, and you suddenly it becomes your choice to which way you want this particular avatar to go and to play with. That's the only time when you do, and you probably will have clarity when that moment comes. You will have strong inclination that this is a crossroad moment, a sliding doors moment. And also, there's always going to be fail safe, fail safe moments. I think when you choose something that is not supposed to be happening, usually you will circle back and you will come back to a moment in your life where you are going to be given the choice to choose again over and over again because if you keep choosing one way and that way is pretty much a dead end, it will just circle back, and then you will always have the choice to make that dead end choice. But the fact is, unless you choose the other path, you will always just going to keep going round and round in that particular story. So I guess, and the upside is, of course, you're always going to be nudged and guided to choose the other ones, but they will not force you to choose the other story or the other choice. Um, so, in conclusion, my conclusion for this particular theory, or my theory, is just that. It's just that you don't have control over your life, really. You're just here almost like as a passenger, except for the moments where you are being offered the choices, um, to make a deliberate choice which path you want to take, like in the RPG, like option, do you want to go A, B, C, D path? And outside those pockets of times and moments, you don't really. You just have to kind of go with the ride and enjoy the ride of what already been pre-made for you, be pre-programmed for you. And I think that makes sense for right now, because then when you've passed away, you're like, oh, I don't particularly like that particular person's story. Let's go to a different person's story, and you might choose an opposite life story. You might, in my case, maybe I would have to choose uh, a man, like living in the bodies of a man and living a story of a man who is, I don't know, a tyrant, for example, so that I can feel what it feels like to be powerful, and also having everyone going against you because you're a tyrant. Um, but even that, I feel like there is that, like, life is an interactive movie almost. It's like an AI interactive program that you get to feel with visceral emotions and visceral perception. And so the body becomes both the receptors and the broadcast equipment, basically. And I feel like if I believe in this particular theory of mine, in this particular conclusion of mine, the phrase that I heard last year, it makes sense. It's like, yeah, you just have to breathe and release resistance. That's your job. That's your only job. Like, that makes sense if I see it from this perspective. It's like, because I think what we mistaken a lot of the time is that this particular person's, this body's story is the soul story. And it isn't in a lot of ways. The body story is a body story, like the human story is the human story, and the soul just trying to hitch a ride, and it basically get to make choices, of course, when it's presented to them, so that the human side is like, okay, then this is your area of play, but the rest of it is my area of play. You don't get to say, you don't get to have a say. And I feel like this also happens in the physical sense. I used to have braces, and then I stopped wearing retainers, and my teeth got messy again. And it just got messy the same way it originally was before I used my braces. And this also happened in a lot of my bodily experiences as well. Like, I tried so hard to alter it, but it just kept going back to its natural way of being. And I noticed, oh, okay, it doesn't matter how hard I want to change nature, it will always prevails. And it has time on its side, so it's really hard for me to win. And I think that's my conclusion. The conclusion is, in a lot of ways, it should be reassuring. It should means that you are being taken care of, that this is a project that's not only involving you, like you, the soul, is not the only entity here. Your body is a different entity as well. And life is not a solo project. I'm sure like they have this all from all the spiritual books that I've read, the regression books, like we have beings that are in charge of us. We have spiritual guides, we have teams of spirits that have programmed our life in certain ways. Sounds like alien uh, project, to be honest. And there are systems already in place for our lives. And I just want to share that with you, because before I completely go back to my to my human existence, and this kind of clarity is completely gone, because I think that's the whole point, right? You want the game to be really real, you want the game to be extremely immersive, you want the game to be as close as possible. Like you want the illusion to be as strong as possible, that you don't remember that it's just a game. Some in some ways that it already has programs, it already been set out to like set up, everything is already laid out basically, and you just meant to enjoy it and go with the ride. And I think, I know, like from a different perspective, it can be very disheartening, because there are also like that school of, we are here as creators, we are here to create things, and we that means like there's a lot of free will. That means it's a blank slate, right? That means like it's an open canvas. It's There is nothing in there, and we get to do that. But I think those only happens in the moments of choice, like the one that I said before, where you get a few choices of what you want to do, and those are the moments that you can create. But outside of that, usually it has been pre-programmed. Even like when you make decisions like, oh, I want to create a life that is fulfilling, I want to create a life of a business person that is so motivating and motivating other people. If, the decision, the creation happens in the decision rather than in the process of unfolding, because once you make that decision, I feel like the system will create it for you. And being a creator just means making the decisions, and those decision moments usually already being pre-selected and pre-chosen for you, and you going to do it only in the moments that the system will allow you to. I feel like that's it, guys, for today's rambles, because I know it sounded like so out there, and I feel like, oh no, is this gonna be like so woo woo wow wow? But right now, I'm just having that clarity, so I just want to share. And yeah, before it completely being wiped out from my brain again, and I'm gonna go back to complaining life is so hard, blah blah blah. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I will see you in the next video. My name is Valerie. I'm a solopreneur, digital creator on the internet. If you want to check out my work, you can check out the description box below. And it's good to always check out the description box anyway, just to see, even to scroll down to see what kind of offer I have every now and then, because sometimes I would have ING free cash for new customers available, and I usually will not I will not like announce it. And so you just have to keep checking, if you're a new customer, or you never banked with ING Australia, for example. So just like little things like that, you can get deals and stuff. I'm just too lazy to announce it on the video. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.